Hello, welcome to more yoga with me, Emily. Thank you so much for joining me today. I thought we would get into the lower body, particularly the posterior chain. So, releasing hamstrings, but also outer thighs, a little bit of stuff like that. As always, if we're getting into that, that means we're getting into the hips. If you have a yoga strap, that can be really useful today, or even a towel or a blanket that you can use sort of as a strap. If you don't have it, don't worry about it. Lots of options without the strap. Sound good? Let's just jump into it. Let's lie down. Well, you don't have to jump. You move in like a yoga sort of way. So make your way onto your back. And depending on how your day has been so far, you might need to get some wiggles out or shake or release. You might have the legs stretched out, knees bent or straight, or rather, legs straight. Or you could have the knees bent. If so, take your feet wider than your hips. Let your knees hang in toward each other so that the thighs are touching. And that will take a lot of the muscular activation out. It's also a really great position to help release tension in the lumbar spine. Then once you've found a position, that'll work for you for a few breaths. Inhale through your nose. Exhale, sigh your breath away. Couple more. And then continue breathing however you need to, whether it's in and out through your nose or your mouth. Notice how your breath is flowing. If it feels really open and spacious, then fantastic. Acknowledge that for whatever it's worth today. Maybe you notice some sticky or choppy spots along the way, in which case also fantastic. You could try to lengthen through those parts of the breath just to smooth it out a little bit more, though, if you wish. Last few breaths here. And then invite a little bit of movement back into your body, whatever way feels best for you to wake up. A little wiggle of the fingertips or toes, or a rock of the head from side to side, or a big yawning stretch. And in fact, let's all do that. So extend your legs on the floor, point your toes away from you, interlace your hands or your fingertips, reach them up above your head, or rather, in the opposite direction of your toes, and then lift your low back up off the floor, and then flex your toes back toward your shins, press your low back into the earth, and then shake it all out. Draw your knees in toward your chest, and take a little rock from side to side. Again, or not again, as always, you could draw circles with your legs and the hip sockets. Maybe they go the same direction as each other. Maybe they go in opposite directions. Maybe they're just like super wild and crazy, and you just releasing whatever needs to be released. And then come back to center. Okay, keep your knees bent. Bring your feet to the floor, hip width apart, parallel-ish. Close enough into your bum, you can tickle your heels with your fingertips. So if you've been with me for a while, you know we're setting up for bridge pose. Wrap your shoulder blades toward each other on your back, little lift of the heart up to the sky. And some people like to have their arms extended beside them, palms facing down for a little bit more support. I really like taking robot arms, so upper arms on the floor, but bend the elbows and reach the fingertips up to the sky. And then pressing your heels into the floor, especially inhale, lift your pelvis and your spine up and away from the earth. And then exhale, slowly lower back down. So a few more of these on your own time, on your own breath. Inhale to lift and exhale to lower. Now you might not be going up super crazy high. You might be going up higher than me. It doesn't really matter. Just go where you need to go, particularly because it's the first set of multiple sets. Don't tire yourself out too much. Last 2 full rounds here. And then the next time you come down to the earth, pause there. You might stay still, or you might take a little wiggle. All right, let's set up for the second set. This time, as we come up into bridge, we're going to pause at the top. So some of you might choose to just stay here, or you might choose to walk onto the outside edge of your shoulders. Maybe you clasp your hands behind your back, getting, pretty big opening through the chest and shoulders. Or you could bend your elbows and bring your hands to your hip bones, your pelvis, to lift up the hips a little bit more. But make sure your knees aren't winging out to the side here, right? I want you to think of having your thighs in neutral the whole time, and maybe even imagining that you're trying to scrub your heels away from each other, and that will help activate the muscles that will keep your legs in neutral, but also lift your hips up a little bit higher. And then if your hands are clasped, unclasp them and exhale, slowly lower down to the earth. Take your feet mat width apart, a little windshield wiper of the legs to help release. And then we're going to do 2 more sets. I know. But it's good for us. So bring your legs back into the normal setup, hip width apart, parallel-ish, close enough to your bum. You can tickle your heels with your fingertips. And then shoulder blades loop onto the back. Inhale, lift up to your bridge. Now, some of you might stay here, right? Maybe you walk onto the outside edge of the shoulders. Maybe you walk your left foot in a little bit, come onto the toes of the right. Maybe you draw that right thigh toward you. Maybe you reach the leg up to the sky. Now the ankle could be flexed. You could point the toes away from you, or you could do a little bit of both, kind of like a Barbie doll foot or flointing. Okay, and then bend the right knee, bring the foot back down to the floor, and then find the center. My left hamstring is cramping. There we go. And then switch to the opposite side if you wish. Walk the right foot in a little bit. Come onto the toes of the left. That's option 1. Option 2, draw the thigh in, or maybe reach the leg up to the sky. Now again, you could point the toes away from you. Just see how it feels on this leg. It could be totally different where you need to go. And then bring your left foot back down to the floor. Exhale, lower all the way down to the earth. Little windshield wiper at the knees if you want to. All right, I promise we have only 1 set left to go. Now, last set is your choice. You could do any of the first 3 options that we did, or if you would like to, join me in more of what's called a hamstring bridge. So walk your feet further away from you, and then you might even come up onto your heels, so the soles of the feet are up off the floor. This time you're really going to want your arms alongside you on the floor. And then as you inhale, lift up into bridge, and exhale, slowly lower back down. So a few more of those if you're joining me. Now the idea is that you should be feeling your hamstrings, the back of the legs or the back of the upper thighs. If you're not feeling your hamstrings, walk your feet further away from you. If it's too much, then draw your feet back toward you a little bit. So last few breaths here. One more inhale. One more exhale. All right, and then release to the floor. Hug your knees into your chest, little rock from side to side. Now, as much as we try to keep the low back long while we do this, sometimes it can get a little bit tight. So hug your knees into your chest a little bit more. Maybe you clasp your hands over top of the shins. You could stay here. You might curl your nose toward your knees, or maybe you press your shins up to the sky, getting really deep rounding and release through the lumbar spine. And then slowly come back down to the floor. Shake out your legs and then grab your strap if you have it. If you don't have it, don't worry about it. Again, I will give you options. Okay, left knee stays bent with the sole of the foot to the floor. Draw your right knee toward you. If you have a strap, bring it to the balls of the right foot and then reach your leg up to the sky. If you don't have a strap, imagine that I don't have a strap. You can bring your hands to the back of the thigh if you wish. Now your knee here, your right knee, could be as deeply bent as it needs to be today, right? It does not need to be straight. But what I want you to try to do is flex the toes back toward your face, right? Pressing the sole of the foot up to the sky. So I like to bring the strap right up to the balls of my foot so that it enforces that dorsiflexion of the ankle. And I also like to walk my hands as far up the strap as they'll go so that I don't have to bend my elbows and use muscular strength to be here. Strength sometimes is good, but it can be a bit fatiguing here. Now, maybe you stay here if you'd like to deepen it. You could reach your left leg away from you. I want it to be really active, though. The other cool thing about peeling the toes back toward the shin is that you get into the calf muscles as well as the hamstrings. So a few more breaths here. Right, again, as gentle or as deep of a hamstring stretch as you need. Maybe you don't even need a strap because your fingertips comfortably reach your foot or your toes, and that's okay too. All right. So from here, take both straps into your left hand if you're using straps. If you're not, even if you are, take your right thumb into the hip crease on that right side as an idea to help wrap the outer right hip down, out and down towards the floor. Little micro bend or even a deep bend on that lifted leg, and then draw your leg across the center line of the body. Now it's not going to go super far. We're not going into a twist. I want you to keep the entire right side of your body, the back of the hip on the floor. So it's just an outer thigh release here. Right? Knee again could be deeply bent. You're still getting that release. And then keep wrapping or even actively pressing that right hip towards the foot edge of your mat. Last breath here. Okay, and then bring your right leg back to center. And then take the strap into your right hands or both edges of the strap. Left hand can go out to the side. And then again, your knee could be bent or straight. Take your right leg out to the right. I'm going to bend my knee a little bit so that I don't knock over my bookshelf. If your right elbow reaches the floor, you can start to draw or use your bicep strength to pull the foot closer toward you. And here you could bend the left knee and let the knee wing out to the side as well. So you're kind of getting a 2-for-1 stretch. I have kind of an injury on this right side, so I'm not going to go nearly as deep as I would normally, right? And that's the hardest thing to do, is to listen to your body and always work without pain. Slowly come back to center. Last couple breaths in the center, whether or not you have a strap. Right, knee could be deeply bent, it could be straight. Maybe you draw the leg closer toward you. Go where you need to go. Right, so with all of those bridges, we activated the legs, particularly the back line of the legs, and now we're releasing them. And then slowly bend the right knee, release the strap. Couple breaths, either in stillness here, or maybe you shake out the leg. Release however you need to release. And then extend both legs along the floor. Couple breaths here. Just notice what you notice. Feel what you might feel from one side to the other. Maybe there's not much of a difference. Maybe there's a huge difference. Again, it doesn't matter. It's your experience. All right. And then let's do all of that on the opposite side. So bend both knees, keep the right foot on the floor. And then again, if you're using a strap, bring the balls of the left foot into the strap and reach your leg up to the sky. If you don't have a strap, don't worry about it. Just reach your leg up to the sky. Again, your knee can be deeply bent, or you might straighten a little bit. Just try not to lock it out. Maybe you walk your hands up the strap or hold the back of your thigh if you don't have one. Maybe you reach the right leg away from you on the floor. That deepens it, so you might have to back out of the depth on that left leg a little bit. But keep peeling the toes of the left foot back toward your face, right? As if you're pressing your heel or the sole of the foot up to the sky. Flex the right toes back toward your shin as well. So that right leg is really active. A couple more breaths here in the center, right? If at any point you're feeling like this trembling or shaking, back out of the stretch, because then you're not getting the release, right? Your muscles are actively fighting against you, your nerves, your nervous system. They're like, no, this is too much. Don't stretch me this much. So you back out of the depth. Okay, bring your right hand to both straps. Take your left thumb into that left hip crease and then wrap it out and down to the bottom edge of the mat. And then draw your left leg across the center line of the body. So my leg is only going maybe 5 or 10 degrees across the center line of the body. Well, maybe a bit more, but you get my idea, right? It's not going into a twist. It's not going way over to the right. The back of my left hip is still on the floor, and I'd like yours to be there too. If your right knee is bent, you could cross your right knee across the center line as well, or maybe you keep the right leg extended. Keep wrapping that outer left hip towards the foot edge of the mat, and hopefully you're feeling something now on the outer left thigh. Last couple breaths here. I started to feel that trembling, so I backed out of it. And then slowly come back to center. And then switch the grip, so both straps into the left hand now. Right arm could go out to the side, and then take your left leg out to the left. Again, if your elbow reaches the floor, you could start to draw the foot up toward your shoulder a little bit more. Your right leg might stay extended, or you could bend the knee and let the right knee wing out to the side. It kind of makes my hips cramp a bit, so I'm not going to do that. Right? Listening to your body. Do what you need to do. Your left leg could be deeply bent. It does not need to be straight. And then also, please don't lock it out. Last couple breaths here. And slowly bring your left leg back to center. Last couple breaths in the center. I know this is really intense leg work, but sometimes you got to do it, right? Maybe you're just holding the leg or the calf or the ankle or the toes, or maybe you've got your strap. Maybe you're deep in the stretch, right? Maybe you're just able to because we've been opening the hamstrings for so long on this side that they have released a little bit of tension. Okay, and then slowly, gently let go of the strap, let go of the legs, shake them out a little bit, or a little windshield wiper of the legs. All right, and then grab the backs of your thighs. You might start to rock and roll up and down your spine here, shoulder blades to sit bones. And as always, if that doesn't feel good, roll to one side, press yourself up. We'll meet on hands and knees. You're probably wondering if we were ever going to do cat and cow today. Well, we are, because it's one of the best things that you can do for your spine and your mobility. So hands outer shoulder width apart or wider. Let's start to move here. So inhale, lift the tailbone. Hollow through the lower back, broaden through your collarbones. Exhale, tuck your tailbone under, round through the spine. Really press the floor away from you. Inhale, Dip the belly into cow. Exhale, round your spine into cat. So a few more of these on your own time, on your own breath. And if there's any other natural movement that would feel good here, please feel free to add on. It could be a little wag of the tail from side to side. It could be barrel rolls through your chest. You could send your hips further back toward your heels. Really just moving wherever you need to move. Last breath here. All right. And then come back to center. So we did a lot of posterior part of the legs. Let's get a little bit into the hip flexors just to balance it out a touch. So if you want to use some padding, bring it underneath your left knee. And then on your inhale, step or sweep the right foot forward, coming up to half kneeling. Back out of the hips to start with. Hug your legs toward each other. Really squeeze the bum on the back leg, belly button to spine, shoulder blades on your back. Maintaining all that, then shift into the front knee. Now your back toes could be tucked or they could be untucked. It can really dramatically change the experience of the stretch. Even from day to day, you might need one versus the other. But the most important thing is to really squeeze your bum on the back leg. And if you're resting your palms on the front thigh, try not to lean forward. If anything, press your palms forward to send your torso back, getting even more opening through the hip flexors. Last few breaths here. Maybe reach your arms up to the sky. You can flip your palms skyward. Grab hold of the left wrist, lift tall. Exhale over to the right. And then inhale back to center. Release your hands to the floor or to blocks. And then heel into your front foot out a little bit wider and on an angle, enough that your hands can come inside the front foot. And then shift your hips forward. Now try not to just hang out here in the ligaments of the pelvis and the pelvic floor. I want you to feel a little hug of the legs back toward each other so the hips will lift slightly. You might stay up high on your hands. You might come down to your forearms. If that front knee really wants to wing out to the side, you can roll to the baby toe edge of the foot. And then think of dragging your front heel back toward you. Keep that front ankle really active. Back knee could stay down or come up. So lots of options here. You might even reach around with the right hand for the grab of the back foot. It's totally secondary. Just go where you need to go. All right, and then slowly, gently back out of it. Swing your right knee underneath you. Hands and knees, a little wiggle or shake or cat and cow. And then let's switch sides. So again, if you're using padding, bring it underneath the right knee and then step or sweep the left foot forward. Again, coming up to half kneeling, back out of the hips, get all those activations going. So hug the legs toward each other, squeeze the bum on the back leg, nice tall posture. Maintain all of that as you shift forward into the front knee. Again, back toes could be tucked or untucked, but really, really squeeze the bum on the back leg. Go where you need to go. Maybe you press your palms forward to send your torso back even more. And then last option, inhale the arms up to the sky, flip the palms skyward, grab hold of your right wrist, lift tall, exhale over to the left. All right, inhale back to center, and then release your hands to the floor inside your front foot, heel and toe it out wider and on an angle, and then shift your hips forward. Make sure this front foot isn't like way far ahead of the knee. More or less, you want the ankle stacked underneath the knee. Maybe you stay here. Maybe you charge the back leg towards straight. Maybe you come down on forearms. Maybe there's a grab of the back foot that works for you. So go wherever you need to go for a few breaths. And if you're going for the grab of the back foot, make sure you're not on your kneecap though. Shift your weight forward so that you're on your thigh bone. One more inhale. One sweet exhale. Slowly release your hands. Step or sweep the left leg underneath you. Hands and knees, little wiggle, or shake, or cat and cow. And then depending where you are on your mat, you might need to walk your knees back or your hands forward, but then shift your weight into your hands for your plank, just for a couple breaths, either from your knees or from your toes. And then exhale, come all the way down to the earth. Little wiggle of the hips from side to side. Untuck your toes. Press the tops of your feet into the floor, so much so you feel the kneecaps lift away. Send your tailbone to the back wall. Feel your belly button engage toward your spine. Wrap your shoulder blades onto your back. And then inhale, lift your heart forward and up, baby cobra. Exhale, lower back down. A couple more of these on your own time, on your own breath. Hands could hover, or they could come off the mat. You could press up higher. Just really keep the activation of pressing the tops of the feet into the floor. Try not to de-weight them. And then exhale, release all the way down. One cheek to the earth. Deep belly breaths to release through the lower back. Roll over to your back. Hug your knees into your chest and take a little rock from side to side. You know me, I like to end with a twist. So take your right arm out to the side. Maybe you shift your hips right a little bit to start with, and then exhale, lower your knees to the left. Knees could be stacked. You could take a single leg twist. You could cross your legs. You could always bring a pillow or a block underneath your knees or between them for more support. Like, go wherever you need to go. You might even look along your right arm just to finish off the spiral in your neck. Last breath here. And then slowly inhale, return to center. Reset your pelvis and your spine. Maybe even shift your hips left a little bit. Left arm out to the side. Exhale, lower your knees to the right. Again, as gentle or as deep of a twist as you need on this side. And it doesn't have to be the same variation that you did on the first side. You might look along the left arm just to finish off the spiral in your neck. Last couple breaths here. And then on your inhale, return to center. Reset your pelvis and your spine. And then take your knees wide out toward your shoulders or armpits. You could stay here for your happy baby or kick your feet up to the sky. You could grab the backs, the thighs, or anywhere along the legs, the ankles, or the feet. It's generally easier if your arms come between your legs rather than trying to wrap them around the outside of your legs. And then think about where you would like to go for your final resting pose. You could be flat on your back, legs bent, or straight in Shavasana. You could rest on your side or in child's pose, or in a seated meditation. And as always, there is no rush to get there. But once you have found your pose of rest, for 3 breaths, inhale through your nose, exhale, sigh your breath away. Couple more. And then let go of your breath control. Return to your natural breath, slow and sweet. Let go of any last muscle gripping or tension, particularly in your neck or your jaw. As you exhale, let your body melt a little bit deeper into the earth. Stay here longer if you can, 5 or 10 minutes. Thank you so much for joining me today. Namaste.